But speaking of recruiting, I wanted to kind of get on a hot topic that a lot of people are talking about. Patrick Surtain Sr., as I alluded to before, is the new defensive backs coach. And they had talked about his relationships and his developing in recruiting and getting South Florida kids and doing everything else. But I'm actually wanting to talk about a Florida State commitment defensive back, Jordan Pride. He went from Bluntstown over to IMG, and now he's back at Bluntstown again. He's getting a lot of conversation because on his Instagram account, he is no longer having any pinned Florida State tweets of his pictures or anything. It's mostly just Florida that he recently visited to and also Alabama. Do you think there's any kind of worry with that? I know it's hard because these kids are just kids. They want to post on social media, they want to put their pictures out there, and they want to visit whoever they want to visit. But are you worried about the situation there, or do you think we're fine as of right now?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Central.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll be lying if I said I'll be lying if I said that I'm not worried.
Hmm.
But I think now I'm getting to a point now where I realize that, like how you said, they are kids. Like,
Yeah.
and I remember I text you about it. I was like, Central, man, I don't know Central. I
Yeah.
don't know Central. It's looking a little scary. But you know what I'm saying? You told me like, man, like they, they just kids. Sometimes
Yeah.
they just do stuff. They get their followers up.
Yep.
If you're in the social media, one of the main tactics, in that recruiting thing could be, post a picture and taking the official visit or whatever.
Yep.
Fans gonna, they gonna follow you. So I
Yeah.
think it's just I'm low key still one of those panic type of fans. I see it and I
Yeah.
panic, but at the same time, I'm learning patience and I'm learning how to, look at the bigger picture. So he's still a kid. That's all. That's all to it, man.
Yeah, and I get it. It's kids, recruitments, and everything like that. I know you can't be too worried about it, but it does kind of give Florida State fans some worry about a Roderick Kearney, a four-star offensive lineman that was committed to Florida State. He actually committed to Florida State after his official visit to Florida. Turned out everything glitter isn't gold. Next thing you know, he commits to Florida State. He goes through the process, was basically no-blooded at that point. Next thing you know, he is going down the line and started visiting Florida a little bit more here, and started doing half and half visits. And next thing you know, he decommits from Florida State, commits to Florida. And, they kind of looked at some interest in other ways and everything. And suddenly Florida is now signing him on National Signing Day. And I think that's very important to understand that you have to kind of look at the visits, but at the same time, you have to watch out for everything that you do because recruiting is so just dynamic in what it does. And I think these kids, I don't think y'all understand just because they're 17, 18-year-old kids. One day they might like French fries, but the next day they might like tater tots. I mean, you
Tater
just don't
tots.
know.
Exactly.
It it's so odd, man. Like I I get it. I mean, I understand, being a kid at one time, understanding that, you have to figure out what's right for you. And if the situation isn't right, if the relationships aren't where it needs to be, not saying that Alex Atkins did anything wrong. He could have had a change of heart, and next thing you know, he wanted to go to Florida. It is what it is. You can't just go back on it and say we didn't want him and other things like that. I
Right.
see a lot of fans doing that a lot. And I think when you look at Jordan Pride, you just have to continue to recruit at a high level. He's visited Florida State a couple of times, and I think that's just really important to understand that he's just a kid. He'll figure it out. If we don't get him, we got some other targets on the board that we're going to try to go after, and we'll try to have a backup plan for him. I definitely don't doubt Patrick Surtain in terms of trying to get his guys in there. So